I'd love to just go dig into your personal life in a bit more detail. That sounded a bit weird. But just in terms of because I obviously we've spoken a few times, and you've done some pretty interesting things. Like, can you tell us about some of your travels and where you've been and what you've done, what your hobbies are? Because it's I think yeah, it's people wouldn't expect it.
It's an interesting, and I haven't been able to nail where this comes from, but I see it in my son as well. So I've got a 26-year-old daughter and almost 24-year-old son, and you're always looking at your kids. I know you've got kids. You're always looking to say, who's got what, which DNA are they hitting upon here, sort of thing. And the good ones are always mine, and the bad ones are obviously always my wife. But ever since I was quite young, I've always been wanting to push myself out of my comfort zone repeatedly, and that's gone to travel as well. And going to different places and seeing different things. So, at the age of, I finished uni, and 3 days after I finished uni back in the early 80s, I had a 1970 Hillman Hunter, shitty old car. It cost me a couple $100, and I headed off around Australia on my own, just to sort of explore and sort of see what was going on with the world. And, had some, drove up and all the way through, and ended up living and working on Lindeman Island in the Whitsundays and managing all the bars up there. Then went across to Alice Springs and managed a new hotel opening and bars over there and things. And it was just that, I think, that push to keep striving, just sort of out of your comfort zone. What's around the next corner? What's going on? And to get back to the nub of the question is, it's still there today. So, I've been to and done photography in Iran. So I spent a couple of weeks in Iran. Obviously, it's in 2019 when the country, before COVID, before it closed down. I have been to India a couple of times doing street photography in India, and just taking myself off to different places and just mixing with the locals and understanding and trying to connect with them. And the photography is not the absolute reason for it. The photography is a bit of a tool, I think, that forces you to do that. Been to Oman back in the days when I was living overseas. I travelled right out to the Syrian border in Turkey. Just taking buses and things like that. Travelled through Myanmar when it was open, and in some pretty rough conditions. Travelled through Laos again before it was really sort of touristy and things. So it's all those. There's probably a couple more, don't know.